Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you are watching this. Why the RRB, Regional Rural Banks, Grameen Bank, employees and officers are on warpath? This is because of the distorted implementation of the 11th bipartite settlement. Also, similar distortion in the implementation of 8th joint note. What exactly are the problems? While implementing the bipartite settlement, the arrears that are due to the employees from 1st November 2017, that is the period from which the bipartite and the joint note covers, those arrears are not being allowed immediately to the RRB employees. They were given to the other bank employees, but not to the RRB employees. They are slated to be disbursed to them in 2 half-yearly installments, not starting immediately. Towards the last quarter of 21-22, which means January 2022 to March 2022, roughly after a year. That is the first installment, and the second installment will be released after 6 months after that date, which means 1 year plus another 6 months. This is one area where the RRB employees are aggrieved. The second area is the allowances. Some of the allowances, which are called Part 2 allowances. What are these Part 2 allowances? Traveling allowances, transfer traveling allowance, halting allowance, mileage. These will be given to the RRBs, all right, but their sponsor banks have to decide. There are 45 regional rural banks and 15 sponsor banks. They have to decide. Although agreement has been reached and these benefits are given to the other banks, RRBs are not getting this. The third area of dispute is the 11th bipartite settlement has introduced some new benefits called learning allowance, location allowance, and productivity linked incentive. These are not being allowed to the RRB. The government did not say that it was not going to allow these things to the RRB employees. Yet it said they will be decided by the government after the restructuring of the regional rural banks. We do not know what kind of restructure the government has in mind and when this restructuring is going to take place. But they are linked to the restructuring. So the questions arise in the laity, in the minds of the lay people. Are not the regional rural banks tough getting salaries and allowances equal to the other commercial banks? If someone is thinking to join these banks, he or she not going to get pay parity with the other commercial banks? Question number 1. And the other doubt is, what are these bipartite settlements anyway? Then what is this joint note? So let us try to understand, though briefly, the background. First is whether the RRB employees get salaries and allowances equal to the other commercial banks. Are they getting these things from the beginning? So let us look at the issue from the beginning. Yes, the salaries and allowances of the regional rural banks were not equal to the other commercial banks when these banks were established in 1975. Why these banks were established when there were other institutions in the rural areas, the cooperatives and commercial banks? Even after the social control on the commercial banks, after nationalization of the banks, the scheduled commercial banks or the banks in public sector were not able to meet the credit requirements of the rural poor, particularly the small farmers, marginal farmers, and all other below poverty line. So were the cooperative banks. They too could not meet the credit requirement adequately. So in a sense, both the sets of financial institutions, commercial banks and cooperatives were a failure in meeting the credit needs of the rural poor. So the government then wanted an alternative institution. Not that these banks did not have their own unique strengths. The commercial banks have their commercial acumen, judgment, efficiency. These are the strengths of the commercial institutions, commercial banks. And the cooperatives had the local feel of the problem, familiarity with the credit needs of the small and marginal farmers. So these two institutions did have their own strengths. So the government wanted an institution imbibing in itself the strengths of both these institutions, the commercial banks and cooperative banks. The result is the advent of the regional rural banks. Why the regional rural banks have taken birth? The very preamble to the Regional Rural Banks Act 1976 and also the ordinance that preceded it. The regional rural banks have taken birth with an ordinance because the government felt the urgency that the rural poor should be helped without waiting for the parliament to come into session. So the preambles of the ordinance and the Regional Rural Banks Act said that a bank, to meet the credit and other requirements of the small farmers, marginal farmers, agricultural laborers, and all those people inhabiting the rural area, particularly all those below poverty line. This is for the poor people bank to provide credit and other requirement for the matters connected with this goal and incidental thereto. So specifically the regional rural banks were organized. Regional rural banks and under the Government of India control. In the central sector, so to say, 50% of the shareholding of the regional rural banks was held by the Government of India and another 35% in general by a public sector bank, 35%. So together, put together 85% directly or indirectly by the government. Then 15% of the shareholding by the state government in whichever state this bank was functioning. While doing all this, what did government do that time? In the RRBs Act, section 17, it said the salaries and allowances of the regional rural bank staff be decided with due regard to the salaries and allowances of the comparable cadres, not in the banks, but in the state government and local bodies. How? Banking is in the central sector, regional rural banks are the scheduled commercial banks, but still this was the condition imposed, which means if a bank was set up in Andhra Pradesh, the employees and officers would get the salaries equal to the employees and officers of the Andhra Pradesh state government. If a regional rural bank was set up in West Bengal, the staff in that bank, although both are regional rural banks, get salaries equal to the officers and employees of West Bengal, so on and so forth. So from the very beginning, the disparities within the industry, and goals were good that the bank should be organized in one or two districts, a homogeneous agro-climatic area to help evolve uniform schemes, and they are rural. Now unfortunately, what is happening today, that is not the situation. The banks are not confined only to one or two districts. Entire state is the area of operation of each regional rural bank. That time there were 196 regional rural banks. Today there are 45 regional rural banks. They have been condensed together. Then the branches were supposed to be in the rural area because these are rural banks. Now what's happening? As of 2019-20, there are 21,850 branches of regional rural banks. Of them, 1,411 are in the urban areas. Worse still, 389 are in metro areas. In metropolitan areas, we have the branches of regional rural banks. Then 4,705 branches in the semi-urban areas. In effect, in pure rural areas, we have only 15,345 branches against 21,850 branches. Why these regional rural banks? To serve the rural people, to flow back the deposits that have been mobilized in the rural area itself. But is that happening? Look at the business of these banks. It's good that the total business of these banks is 7.77 lakh crore by 2019-20, of which deposits are 4,78,457 crore, mobilized from as many as 27.16 crore persons. It's a good thing. And then the advances 2,98,256 crore. The credit deposit ratio used to be around 100 before, but now it has come down to 6.2. Then the investments. Where are these banks investing their funds besides giving loans to the people? 2,49,155 crores are the investments in the security market. True, the RRBs are required to hold a part of their deposits as statutory liquidity ratio investments in the approved securities and shares. Good. But are they limiting to that? The total ID ratio here is 52.07%, which means the SLR investment is only 1.44 lakh crore, remaining 1,05,000 crore non-SLR investments. So 42% of the investments are unnecessarily shifted to the securities market. A reverse flow from rural areas to urban areas. This is not the purpose of the regional rural banks. Anyway, leaving aside the bank's establishment goals and the actual functioning after the reforms in the country in general, banking in particular, and more particularly in the regional rural banks, keep these things aside for a while and look at the salaries. So while the nature of job is banking, it was not correct, it was unjust to link the salaries to the state governments. RRB employees did not agree to this situation. That is the reason why the RRB employees have been in agitation from the very beginning of the establishment of these banks. They had long battles, non-cooperation movements, strikes, dharnas, petitioning, appeals to the parliamentarians, government, and the court battles. They knocked at the doors of the Supreme Court, and after a long legal fight in the apex court, the Honorable Supreme Court in 1987 appointed a National Industrial Tribunal under the chairmanship of Justice Obul Reddy. This tribunal found justice in the demand of the RRB employees. It has given its award bringing parity between the commercial banks and the RRBs in wages and allowances, not simply salaries, not only to the RRB employees but to the officers. All those who are working in the regional rural bank should get salaries equal to the other commercial banks. Of course, although this award was given in 1990, again government has delayed it, and finally they got in 1991 when the fourth bipartite settlement was in force, and by the time it was implemented, even fifth bipartite settlement of the commercial banks also came into force. So fourth and fifth bipartite settlements, the parity was allowed, although there were distortions again in respect of some allowances. But when the sixth bipartite settlement came subsequently, again the government tried to back out. It appointed a committee called Mahalik Committee to look into the salaries and allowances of the regional rural banks afresh. Again, the RRB employees had got to go to the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court again given its judgment telling that the award is final, binding on the government, and government should allow the salaries and allowances as and when they are revised in the other commercial banks. Because there is section 17(1), the government's responsibility to notify as per the statute, the Regional Rural Banks Act. So the government is supposed to notify the implementation of the settlements in the commercial banks within the reasonable time. But unfortunately, government did not do that, and that's why the agitation again. Now, what are these bipartite settlements? What are these bipartite settlements in the banking industry? Bank employees, although they have militant trade union organizations, had a long battle to get fair wages in the industry. Before 1949, the banking industry was not the central subject insofar as it was concerned with the Industrial Disputes Act. On 30 April 1949, banking and insurance was brought under the Central ID Act sphere by the Government of India. And the Government of India appointed a national industrial tribunal to the commercial banks, bringing all the bank salary related disputes for its examination. That tribunal was K.C. Sen, Justice K.C. Sen Tribunal, appointed in 1949, 13 June 1949. And Justice Sen gave his award on 12th August 1950, but unfortunately that was declared null and void by the Supreme Court that time. And then the employees naturally protested, again clamored for the wage revision. Then the government appointed another tribunal under Justice Divitia's chairmanship. But that was again protested by the bank employees because Divitia had shares in many banks himself. When he had shares in the banks, a conflict of interest, and bank employees opposed, no, we do not want this tribunal. Then after the protests, Justice Divitia recused, he resigned, and further protests. Then another tribunal of Justice Pancha Pakesha Shastri, that was on 5th January 1952, and this covered the salaries and allowances of the clerical and subordinate staff in the banking industry. It gave its award on 20th April 1953, but that had resulted in some wage cuts, not wage increase. Of course, there were some benefits to the employees, all right, but wage cuts were also part of the tribunal. Naturally, the aggrieved employees appealed to the Labour Appellate Tribunal, and Labour Appellate Tribunal found justice in the demand of the bank employees, restored the wage cuts. Unfortunately, the government did not agree to this. It had modified the Labour Appellate Tribunal's award and notified on 24th August 1954. Employees went on strike. Everybody, all the democratic forces opposed this. When the National Tribunal effected cuts and Appellate Tribunal said it was wrong, and government agreeing with the tribunal was wrong. Why others? Within the government, then Labour Minister V.V. Giri resigned in protest, supporting the bank employees. You know, V.V. Giri later became the President of India. So that powerful was the struggle of the bank employees at that time. And finally, government had to budge, and a commission was appointed, Rajadeksha Commission. Unfortunately, he died before giving his report. Then he was replaced by Justice Gajendra Gadkar. That award was known as Bank Award Commission, which came into force on 25th July 1955. After that, the Government of India framed Industrial Disputes Banking Companies Decision Act 1955. Under Section 4 of this Act, the government allowed Shastri Award as modified by Labour Appellate Tribunal and Bank Award Commission, and this was effective 31 March 1959. Later, another tribunal for the wage revision in the banks, K.T. Desai Tribunal. This was published on 13th June 1962. It came into force on 1st January 62 and was in force initially up to 31st of December 1962. Later it was extended twice and finally it was in force till 31 March 1964. So these are the different tribunals and struggles, strikes of the bank employees. Then the experience of the bank employees was not good with the tribunals. Then they wanted industry level settlements, industry level negotiations between the managements and the employees. That was the demand. And after much bargain, struggle, it was accepted. And that's how the bipartite settlements came into force. Two parties, the bank managements or Bank Managements Association, Indian Banks Association on one part, and representing the employees organizations on the other part. Two parties together negotiate and come to a settlement which is called a bipartite settlement, and first bipartite settlement was signed on 19th October 1966. Thereafter, periodically the bipartite settlements are being made between the bank employees and the bank managements, and the current one is the 11th bipartite settlement, which came into force on 1st November 2017 and will be current till 31st October 2022. Thereafter, 12th bipartite settlement. This is the history of bipartite settlement. And the revisions through these bipartite settlement between commercial bank managements and their employees should be implemented to the regional and rural bank employees as a right based on their National Industrial Tribunal, Justice Obul Reddy's Tribunal, and the Supreme Court's stamp of approval, which is not being done, unfortunately. Then lastly, joint notes. We talked about the 8th joint note. Because the officers are not the workmen under Industrial Disputes Act, and these industrial tribunals awards do not govern the salaries and allowances of the bank officers. Their salaries and allowances are separately decided through negotiations between the officers' representatives and the bank managements. And a note is signed, a joint note is signed. That is the joint note. And bank officers suffered no less than the bank employees. They did not have parity and their salaries were not high. To exclude them from the Industrial Disputes Act, supposing the limit for coming under the Industrial Dispute Act is 500, some 20 rupees more was allowed to them to exclude them. So they too had to fight before the government and banks agreeing to revise their salaries also. After their long battle in 1973 for standardizing the salaries of the public sector officers' salaries and allowances, a committee was appointed under Professor U.R. Pillai's chairmanship. He gave his report in 1974, but that was shelved till 1979, and when it was implemented in 1979, that did not give any benefit to the bank officers, and they protested and they went on agitations, and finally their salaries and allowances issue was also settled. Like the bank employees, they too are getting periodical revisions every 5 years now. This is the history. Hope the government would rethink, avoid this nuanced thinking and allow the parity to the regional rural bank employees and avoid their agitation in the public interest. Thank you for watching. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe. It is free. Please click on that subscribe button below. After that, please do not forget to click on the bell icon to get the notifications as and when I upload a fresh video to the channel. Thank you.